I'm thrilled that today's guest, Scooter Braun, is a legend, legendary music producer, music mogul, production icon, one of the most influential businessmen of our times. I've admired him from a distance. And the thing I admire most lately is his Jewish activism. He, of course, brought the Nova Festival from Israel over here, the Nova exhibit, which eerily takes people inside what happened that fateful, atrocious October 7th day. He is a tremendous speaker on behalf of Jewish people, on behalf of against the anti-Semitism. He's getting an award from the ADL at the Kennedy Center at a huge event, November 18th. He's recently endorsed Kamala Harris, and we're going to talk about all things. He's the CEO of, his legitimate stuff, he's the CEO of HYBE American, founder of SB Projects. But first of all, thank you for doing what you did with the Nova Festival. Talk to me about when you went over there and how you had the inspiration to bring it over here.
I think I woke up, on October 8th, not October 7th. I woke up on October 8th thinking, okay, this is different. I have a Holocaust background. My grandparents were in Auschwitz and Dachau. And I thought, okay, this is different. There's going to be no Holocaust denying here. You're going to have all this footage. Hamas put it up on Telegram. You could watch all of this massacre. And the next day there was confusion and hatred and division, and people were using it for political purposes. And I was just like, what the hell is going on? And as I kind of waited for people to speak out, I was kind of shocked by the silence, especially by my own industry, because the Nova Festival was a part of this massacre. And I myself was involved in a show in Manchester in 2017, the Ariana Grande show. I was her manager, and we had a terrorist attack and 22 people were killed, and a lot more maimed and hurt. And 2 weeks later, we did a show called One Love Manchester, and the entire world spoke out against this kind of ideology. And no one said, is there a freedom fighter? They just said, killing innocent people at a music event is wrong. So I was waiting kind of to deal with that. And the silence continued. So after a couple of days, I realized I have a platform. I'm going to start speaking out and just educating and trying to get people to speak to each other. Because my belief was, how can we expect peace over there if we can't start with the dialogue here? And I woke up in December after having so many different conversations between both Christian community, Jewish community, Muslim community, Palestinian American friends of mine, Palestinian friends of mine, Israeli friends of mine. And I decided I need to go see it for myself. So I flew over in December, didn't want to do a political trip, paid for my own trip, brought my dad and my brother and my buddy Joe, met up with our friend Yaniv, and just traveled. 45 minutes after landing, we were at Kibbutz Be'eri. We went to 3 different kibbutzes. We saw things no human being should ever see. The blood was still on the walls. I went to a nursery school that was covered in blood and a smell that I'll never forget. I spoke to people whose families were torn apart. And on the 3rd day, I went to the Nova Music Festival site. And on the 4th day, I went to a healing camp where all these kids had gathered to receive therapy and songwriting. And I became incredibly angry of why was the world ignoring these kids who still, after everything they'd been through and all the friends they lost, were still yearning for peace. This idea, we will dance again. And one of them invited me to the exhibit in Tel Aviv, which was not what we brought. It was just a remake of the field with the porta potties and the cars, but no testimonials, because they all knew, they all experienced it. It was a place to pay homage without having to go down to the South. And as soon as I saw it, I said, okay, this is the story we could bring these testimonials that I've been hearing and tell this story. And I met the founder, Ophir. We started talking that day, and 6 months later, we teamed up and brought the Nova exhibit to New York. Did over 120,000 people, and now even more in Los Angeles. And what's really interesting is it is not a place for the Jewish community. It's a place for humanity. It is the largest music massacre in history. Over 400 people were killed. Innocent people were killed. Festival goers from over 20 countries at that festival. 40 more taken hostage from multiple countries, every religion you can imagine. And this gives people an opportunity to walk through and understand it and realize that there's no place for this type of violence. And it doesn't mean your empathy has to stop there. You can continue for all people.
You touched on this and how we were all so shook, and I've been very outspoken about this, how October 7th, the atrocity speaks for itself, but the world's reaction on the 8th, 9th, 10th. And for some reason, because it was Jews, it was being met. I use the term, the evil was being graded on a curve. There was a but or an about. And I think that was frightening for us as Jews, that instead of the world immediately, and you mentioned just about every industry rallying around us, there was a pause, there was a but if or what about. And that was chilling for all of us. And I remember one of my daughters saying to me, could there be another Holocaust again? And I think it just, to our primal core, it shook all of us.
I saw a lot of friends have that conversation about how scared they were. A lot of people found out they felt like they were Jewish for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
They felt like the stories they heard from their grandparents they never believed were real. Holocaust kids have a different experience. Being someone who grew up with a grandmother who was 15 in Auschwitz, a grandfather who was 24 years old in Dachau, growing up with those stories, growing up with a father who was a refugee himself, who escaped the Hungarian Revolution and grew up with parents who escaped the Holocaust. I was raised with a trauma I wouldn't really wish on anybody, which probably made me always thinking about the next move in business and in life, because I was always had this fear that they're coming. It's something is going to come and take this all away from me like it did for my grandparents. And it's probably what made me ready to jump in action on other things and then jump into action on this. And I've taken a hard look at that recently of like, is that a good thing? And the one thing I've decided, because I kind of did years of self-work leading up to October 7th, after a divorce, which anyone who's gone through a divorce can understand. You have a choice. You stay the way you were, or you start to make changes for your new life. And what I've come to terms is that I just refuse to live in fear, and I refuse to let the world's treatment of Jews and anti-Semitism define how I'm going to live as a Jew. And that's what I want to get across to people, that every Jew in the last 1,000 years would switch place with you right now. We have a homeland. We have ways of protecting ourselves. We're stronger than we've ever been. And I promised my grandfather when he passed away that I would never walk to my death. And I'd be willing to fight for what I believe in. And that's what I'm going to do. And we're a beautiful culture. Not just a religion. We're like a remnants of an ancient people. And something I'm very proud of is that since October 7th, I think you've seen that. And you've seen both sides of it. You've seen a lot of fear, thousands of years of fear come out. But you've also seen a strength and a resilience come out, that something I want to hold on to, because we are a beautiful, loving people. And I want to keep doing that. And something I'm also really proud of is how many of my friends who aren't Jewish since October 7th, who've known me my whole life, have suddenly, seeing all this wave of anti-Semitism, felt how wrong it was, and have stepped up wanting to know more about Jews, wanting to know more about our cultures, wanting to join in on a Shabbat dinner at my house. And I want to decide the same way I looked at what happened in Manchester, the same way I looked at, after every tragedy I've been a part of, there's an opportunity for something great on the other side. And I'm choosing to see how the world is coming together and actually not separating since October 7th, because there's so many beautiful connections I've made in the last year. And I'm holding on to that.
There's something that's breaking my heart as a Jew. And I can't put it any other way. And I respect anybody's voting choice. We're going to talk about yours and mine voting choices. But there seems to be this division among Jews that I support Kamala very openly. I'm very against Donald Trump. I think he's divisive. I think I could go on and on and on and on. And somehow you get questioned by your Jewish, well, what do you mean? Aren't you for Israel? And how could you be voting for Donald Trump? And I go through my diatribe. I'm sure you deal with that also. And I'm curious. I'm
Especially today.
Yeah, I'm sure you and it's heartbreaking. I don't know how to put it any other way. And that
listen, like I said to you, when you do self work, whether you if Jew wants to study Kabbalah, or a human being wants to study, or anyone can study Kabbalah, or someone wants to study Stoic philosophy, you can only control your own actions.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, after thousands of years of persecution, after a 70, 80-year grace period since the Holocaust, there's a tremendous amount of fear and justification for why people are feeling that way. Um, I I am not someone who's going to shift the pendulum swing completely to the other side. While I am very openly and proudly voting for Kamala Harris, um, I do not think it's the end of democracy if Trump wins.
I'm worried.
Uh,
You and I disagree. I actually worry about that, to be
I know
honest with
you think it's the end of
you. Yeah.
democracy. It'll be another 4 years like it was before.
Well,
And like go on. Now,
different
here's the thing:
guardrails.
a
Different.
lot of damage can be done in those four
Yeah.
years.
I hope.
And when people have
By the
this,
way, I'd sign up for that. 4 years of damage. I would sign up for that because.
so here's what I would say to somebody: one, I'm going to be a proud American on the other side of this election, no matter what.
Mhm.
I'm still going to push for moderate Democrats to come to the forefront, like Pat Ryan, like Richie Torres.
Mhm.
I think that's actually really important to the party because there's a lot of things on the far left of the party that I completely disagree with.
So you and
The
I,
other
by the
thing
way,
I'd
you and
say,
I are on the same page on all of this. It's just
the other thing I'd say to people is if you're talking to me about the safety of Israel and the safety of Jews and all these different things that we get yelled at when we come out and say who we're endorsing, my argument is the scariest thing for Jews and for the state of Israel is the idea of Israel becoming a partisan issue.
Mhm.
That is the scariest thing. It is not about Donald Trump being elected or Kamala being elected. It is if the next generation thinks that Israel is a partisan issue, that becomes incredibly scary for all of us because it is our number one ally in that region. It is important for democracy. It's important for understanding and having the intelligence we need to protect our own citizens. And one of my fears is that the rhetoric Donald Trump uses is creating Israel as a partisan issue. And people aren't realizing that Kamala has a track record of being very pro-Israel. Just now, the ballistic missiles that were shot down were in partnership with the United States. On October 7th, Walls came to the Nova exhibit to pay homage. She planted a tree in the backyard. She has said vehemently, time and time again, that she would defend Israel and actually make sure Israel, as our ally, always has what it needs to defend itself. But the problem is that the rhetoric on the other side is operating completely from a place of fear. And what I would say is that it is not a partisan issue. And what I've seen from both Democrats and Republicans is that they both understand at the core, they both understand that Israel is our ally. And when you have someone on the other side saying Israel will not exist in 2 years if you elect me, and that is what Donald Trump said, that is rhetoric that I am not okay with, and I do completely disagree with.
Well, the rhetoric goes.
And then beyond that, there's 100 other domestic issues that I'm also
Yeah.
voting on, and I am the proud father of a beautiful 5-year-old girl, and I'm happily casting my vote for someone who I've looked in the eye and had the Israel and the Jewish conversation with in Vice President Harris, but also someone I know is going to protect the rights of my daughter on top of her rights as a Jew.
Yeah. The rhetoric particularly troubling to me was when he got out there and said, "You're not a good Jew if you don't vote for me, and it's going to be the Jews' fault if we lose." The very thing that Jews have fought against their entire life, he's playing the same card against us.
That's exactly what I said to you before. I refuse to act in fear.
Yeah.
And what he's doing is he's activating thousands of years of fear and persecution, and I just have no interest in it.
Good for you. Good for you. I was very touched. I just want to read what was on your Instagram. It says, "The hostilities and confusion of our times won't deter me from what I believe to be right. And that is my conviction in a candidate that I have the honor of calling a friend. I proudly cast my vote for Kamala Harris to be our next president of the United States. I do so as an entrepreneur, a father, a proud Jew who is unafraid, as the child of a refugee who loves this country. I welcome all of you to make your own choice and pray for a nation that is once again united." Amen.
Donnie, do you know who Eddie Jacobson is?
How do I know that name? I know the name, but it's not registered.
Edward Jacobson.
Who is it?
He was Truman's best friend from college. Do you know this story?
No.
So I want to make sure. Hold on, let me just 1 second. Can you guys mind if I do one thing just real quick?
Not at all.
1 second. I just want to turn this off because someone keeps trying to call me. Okay. So Eddie Jacobson was Truman's roommate in college. And the Jews did not come out voting for Truman. Yet the United States was the swing vote for the formation of the state of Israel within the UN. And when no one could get to Truman, there was someone who stayed close to him, who stayed loyal, who understood who he was, who knew him personally, who was his friend, and that was Eddie Jacobson. And he was the one who went to him and said, as my friend, I need you to hear us and have this conversation. And because of Eddie Jacobson, the formation of the state of Israel took place. And what I try to tell people is understand that story. So when you're seeing Jews yelling at each other, when I wrote what you just read about why I'm voting, I didn't just say as a Jew who's unafraid in regards to people attacking Jews. I also said it to my own people so they could hear loud and clear that we as a people have always been able to disagree. There is not a Jewish household in this country that does not have disagreement. And I wanted to let them know I'm that cousin who will always have that conversation.
Yeah.
And when there is a first female president of the United States, if that is to take place, I am someone who loves my culture and loves my people and understands the goodness in the people of the state of Israel. I can disagree with, certain people in the government there. Half of the country does over there, just like they do here.
Absolutely.
But I know the people there. I have friends there. I have family there. And I will always make sure that if I have any say, I'm going to push so that those people are heard and seen. And so did Eddie Jacobson. And I think that people need to understand that if President Trump is the president again, I pray that people that I love who are of the right state of mind stay as close to him as possible. But if my friend, Vice President Harris, becomes President Harris, I know her character, I know who she is, and I know her conviction, and I know her empathy for all people. And I think that the way I'm seeing certain people trying to picture and use our own fears against us is unacceptable. And I have no interest, like you said, I'm going to be that unafraid Jew in regards to anti-Semitism and in regards to my own people who are acting scared.
Amen. Let's talk about the ADL. Jonathan Greenblatt's a good friend of mine. He invited me to your big event, November 18th at the Kennedy Center. That's a big honor. That's a big honor, my friend. Congratulations.
Well, thank you. It's he knows in these times, people have been calling, oh, try this one. My grandfather, my grandfather, who I'm named after, Samuel Schlussel, he died when my mom was 11. And a guy named Irving Shapiro married my grandmother when my mom was 18, and he raised me as if I was his own. And he was on the board of the ADL with Abe Foxman for a very long time. And so for me, this was the one that I wanted to be a part of and accept. And I wanted to honor my grandfather who passed when I was a freshman in college. He was one of the best men I ever knew.
That's the way I describe my dad. Actually, the best man I ever knew. You are a mensch, my friend. I really appreciate you taking time. I just wanted to grab you a little bit. I know how busy you are. Steph Jones can stop harassing you at this point. I saw.
Can I say something about you?
Yes, sir. Please.
I just want to say thank you for you, because you're also one of those unafraid who, no matter what's going on, you bring sanity to the conversation, and you bring empathy, and you bring just that beautiful heart. And it's, while we have a lot of mutual friends, we've talked over the years, you're another person that after October 7th, we got to kind of see who the other person really is. And I admire you. And that's why I wanted to say yes when you called me. So thank you, and tell your daughter there won't be another Holocaust, because there are men like you out there.
Means a lot to me. You made my day. Thank you, my friend.
All right, buddy. Take care.
All right. Everybody, thanks for watching. If you like it, hit that subscribe button. And we love having you here watching On Brand. And just don't miss any future episodes. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We'll see you next time.